right, so let's get started. First of all, I just want to say welcome to the show. Again, it's great that it's Friday. Happy Friday. It's the last Friday before the election. So if you haven't voted in the advance poll, Monday is your day to vote. The polls will be open from 9 to 9 Eastern time, well, my time. I'm not quite sure what it is in other provinces, but I'm sure that's easily checked up on at Elections Canada, the website. So first, I guess I just want to address, there was some comments talking about Trump getting rid of gay marriage. Again, like I said, it's not Trump who's going to be getting rid of it. It's SCOTUS, the Supreme Court in the United States. They'll be coming to their decision probably end of May and June, which June is Pride Month, unfortunately. Well, no, not unfortunately, that's Pride Month. It's unfortunately, that's the decision's probably where it's going to get given. And yes, Reed, that is bad. And in my mind, it's evil. I'm sorry. If you deny human rights to people, that's evil. Anyways, so, again, welcome. You can, I have set a goal of 10 heart me's for this live. You can join the team. You can also subscribe by pressing the star down there. You can also share the live with your friends. You can also tap, because tapping is clapping. And I also have a couple of other gift goals. I think I pinned one. Yeah, I pinned one up there. Anyways, so I'm going to start I got this book. It's a hardcover book. It's a hard book. It's a kid's book. So it's not paper, it's kids. So you can give it to your kid. How old? I guess it's for... When I saw online, it's like for ages 4 and up. It's by a Canadian author, Robin Stevenson. I've met her before. She's amazing. She has a bunch of other books for different age ranges to learn about the 2S LGBTQIA+. Yeah. And I know people out there are going to say, oh, kids are too young. This book isn't talking about sexuality necessarily. It's talking about pride. And the Pride Parade is in a language that children can understand. Because, being proud of who you are is important. All right, so I'm going to go through it a little bit, just so you get an idea. Again, you could buy this at most bookstores or order online. Actually, I should have looked up a good place to order it without having to use Amazon. Anyways, so it says A for awake animals and all, B for breakfast and baby and ball. Oops, I'm not even, oh yeah, it's not showing it. So as you can see, the language is very simple. And again, it's not talking about sexuality. Oh, it's not going to come through, is it? No, I'll show you and then I'll read it. So it says C for car, our old Chevrolet. D for dog, dressed up for the day. So see, there's a lot of fun animations that kids can look at. A lot of colors. Well, it's the Pride Parade, so of course there's going to be lots of colors. Here's the next page. I see there's a whole bunch of these other pride flags that are within our community. Oh, I like this one. All right, so E for everyone under the sun. F for feathers, for flags, and for fun. Just going to go do a couple more pages. Don't want to give away the ending. So here's that page. Here's that page. So it's G for grandma at our meeting spot. H for hats. And hungry and hot. Yeah, well, Pride is in August in Montreal, and it's been very hot. A couple of years ago, it was so hot. It reminded me of Houston, Texas, if you've ever been to Houston. Houston, especially May and June, is absolutely muggy and very hot. There's that one. There's K. And there's L. It says K for kindness and friends that we're keeping. L for leash, and for loose, and for leaping. Right. So again, this is Pride Puppy. It's by Robin Stevenson, and it's a great introductory book to your kids about the Pride Parade, and loving who you are and being proud of who you are. And again, as you saw what I read, there's absolutely nothing about schmecks or sexuality or anything about that. Teaching kids about being respectful and caring for others is important, even though the conservatives or the Republicans may think that is evil. Does anyone want to ask questions about the book or any other books? I had a list of books a couple of weeks ago that you could read for your kids. But anyways, a lot of libraries do carry them here in Canada, except for that one library in Alberta somewhere that's having a big issue about it. They've been overtaken by schmotzies and getting rid of all these important books. Yeah, Reed's not going to be really very respectful. I think he's just a troll. But I mean, if he's going to stay and learn, then that's great. So, yeah, don't forget to share the live. Sorry, it's my first time doing the live on my own, so I'm used to Pasty Native filling in the blanks. But yeah, so actually what I'm going to do is right now I'm going to open it up if anyone wants to come up and talk about reading to your kids in general, or reading to your kids about these books. I know there's a youth center in Montreal, an LGBTQ youth center in Montreal, and their library is full of these books. So anyone want to come up? Just click on the icon down below. I think it's the pink and blue icon with the two people. What represents, Reed? What do you have to go back? Hold on. Okay, well, Reed, first of all, veterans do have a month. Second of all, why take away Pride Month? Why? What does it represent? It represents a bunch of different people, because, I mean, the LGBTQ community is made up of different types of people who've been oppressed for many, many centuries. Actually, maybe not many centuries, because history has been rewritten to remove a lot of the 2S LGBTQIA references. But it's an important month to help people. And if you don't believe in that, that's what month? If I'm not mistaken, it's May. May is Veterans Month. Here, I'll even Google it for you, which is something you could do, by the way. I mean, Google's free, as far as I know. So Google says veterans are recognized in both November and May. November is Military Family Month, including Indigenous Veterans Day on the 8th and Remembrance Day on the 11th. May is National Military Appreciation Month. So, you know what, Reed? Get your facts straight. I mean, you might be straight, but your facts aren't. I don't care if it goes against every religion. Religion, to me, is just a way to control people. I mean, if you think of all the horrendous events that's happened in the last 2,000 years, a lot of them were because of religion. From the Crusades to the witch trials in Salem, to the Inquisition, to I don't even know if I'm allowed to say that, to what happened in 1930s Germany. That was based on religion and hate. So yeah. Yeah. Anyways, so if no one was going to come up to talk, then that's fine. I can just continue. Oh, someone's coming up. Oh, here comes.
Hey,
Hey, hey, Moose.
happy Friday.
Sorry.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Yeah.
Yeah,
How are you
so
doing?
I'm doing all right. So I kind of wanted to bolster what you were saying a bit, especially given what we're seeing in the United States with the Republicans and the Trump presidency. Um, at this point, they are looking, I'm trying to remember exactly, but it's essentially like a anti-Christian task force of some sort that they are talking about implementing or already have. I apologize, I can't remember if they have already or not. But
Yep.
pretty much what it is a task force that's supposed to be looking into government policy and procedures and getting rid of any anti-Christian, you know, anything. And that honestly would it's pretty broad. I'm sorry I don't have the exact wording right now, but it's pretty broad in terms of anything that goes against Christian beliefs
Yeah.
essentially would be deemed as anti-Christian. So with this happening, it's very important to get back to the overall point you were making, where pride is definitely important because it really shows support and shows um, that the people aren't willing to just allow that sort of stuff to happen, especially, I mean, we're in Canada, but so close to home, but the amount of people that are affected by such rhetoric and by such values supersede those that believe in those values.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. And I don't remember what it's called, but I do remember Trump wanting to set up the office for that. And actually, it's a good thing to point out that Harper created an office for religious freedom in Canada, and that's on Pierre Probably Lies platform as well. So it's not just in the United States; it's proposed to come here as well. Um, but and yeah, Reed, United States was not built on Christianity. If I don't remember their Constitution or Declaration of Freedom, whatever, but it's about separation of state and church. So sure, maybe the people were Christian, but they wanted to keep that out of their
And
politics.
and that was the first time I saw anything about that task force. That was immediately my first thought of
Mm.
what about the separation of church and state within the Constitution? Like it's literally going completely the opposite of what's laid out in the Constitution, right? So clear red alarm bells and like sirens and like guys, red flags.
Yeah, and Reed, in God we trust. Well, you spelt God wrong, but is Christianity the only religion that has a God? As far as I know, I don't think so. But yeah, no, it is scary, and you're right. It is Pride is important month, not just for visibility, but for a lot of youth too. And I think that's what is a big driver of all these LGBTQ rights pushes and Pride Month and all that. Is a lot of it has to do with helping the youth when you're growing up. Maybe not so much right now, but I was when I was growing up. Not so much in the 80s. I didn't really, but in the 90s when I first accepted that I was gay myself, it was very hard. I didn't know it was scary. I cried myself to sleep actually most nights for like at least 2 years. I don't think I didn't cry once before I went to bed. And I used to go to church with my mom, and I used to pray to God that you know I didn't want to be gay, and so I'm proof that pray the gay away doesn't work. But no, it is very important. I remember when I first told my high school counselor. She gave me a couple pamphlets of a couple of youth groups around Montreal. Though it took me a little bit of courage to go, I ended up going, and you know what? It was probably why I'm here today. It was, I felt really alone for a long time, and then when I found other people like me, and we conversed and talked about all of our different experiences, it was clear that I wasn't alone. And that's one big reason why we have Pride Month, is to let other people know that they're not alone. And also, of course, it's not just youth. Immigrants coming from other countries who are trying to escape the tyranny of their anti-2S LGBTQIA government. They come here, they, see gay villages in certain cities, they see pride parades, and, they can see that they're not alone, and they can find a community, because the sense of community is important, especially for marginalized groups. If you're white, cis, and heterosexual, your community is, well, in North America, is almost anywhere. So, the communities for marginalized groups are very important for people to, find each other and learn from each other and grow. All right. Let's see. Just want to go back. Let's see what Reed is saying now. Yeah, Treaty 6 is correct. Though I personally don't really believe in Jesus, but Jesus' teachings, from what I remember, was that he loved everyone. He did not once mention drag queens, did not once mention gay people, lesbians, bisexuals.
Yeah, and I mean the overall, I mean, even just going on the Bible and, like you said, the teachings of Jesus, he he, he talked about loving everyone. He talked about, just taking care of one another and being more so a community. And that's where a lot of people tend to have issues with how I frame it, because really, when you look at it, Jesus was a communist first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he wasn't white either. So there's
No, he
another,
wasn't.
kind of pop your bubble. I apologize to anyone that if that's a shocker to you. Um, but I mean, it's really looking at the Bible versus how it's preached, I think kind of bridges the gap, right? Because when it comes to the church, you have hierarchies that tell you how to interpret the Bible, and that's how you need to live your life. It really, like, when it comes to organized religion, unless you are fitting within that bubble they deem to be, ordained, or however you want to say that, kind of the favorite of the higher being, we're never going to see um, the church really have the best interests of everyone at heart. Hence why I think it was very important to put the separation of church and state in
Yeah.
most countries at this point, not just United States or Canada, but globally, it's more common within governments. So
Yeah. Yeah. And that just brings back to, the election of Monday. We got to make sure that Pierre Polyester and his cronies don't get in, because they will. If you read their policy why can't I speak today? Declaration, which we did go over a couple of episodes ago, has many areas that will negatively affect the LGBTQIA, but also other communities or types of people as well, like people with uteruses, which includes trans men. Anyways, so I do want to move on a little bit. Just before I move on, I do want to remind everyone that this is the Beaver Network, and we have various different shows throughout the week. Actually, Moose, do you want to promote your show?
uh, sure, guys, I do the Mossy Side with Moose on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Eastern. We're essentially, we break down the kind of latest and get down to the nitty gritty, breaking it down and kind of looking at motives or how policy would work and where funding come from, all that jazz when it comes to politics. So come be a part of the conversation over on Wednesdays. I'd love to have you.
Yeah, for sure. And I've been there. It's a great show. And we have a bunch of other great shows too. Treaty 6 Birder in the comments has her own show as well. I think it's Indigenous Matters, and that's on Mondays, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Yeah, and then at least almost every day, I think we have at least 2 shows that you can tune into. They're part educational, part inspirational, I guess you could say as well. So yeah, and also want to mention that all of our shows are put on YouTube. Within a couple of days of them airing, they go on YouTube. You could rewatch and share with your friends as well. All right, so what I want to do now is I want to talk about a movie Bros that came out in 2022. So I know I'm late to the game, but I just saw it because it was free. I think it was on Netflix. Anyways, there was a lot of controversy around it. At first, it was like presented as the first big not high budget, but first big romantic comedy with 2 gay men as leads. And it was supposed to be, I don't know, I get they kind of played it off as like this first I guess gay romance in the mainstream, and then it ended up like bombing, and it ended up bombing for a bunch of reasons. One of the reasons is that it was watered down for the heterosexual community. That's what I heard, and that's what actually I witnessed too. I mean, it was pretty tame, I guess. I would say that I don't know. I wouldn't. I mean, it's okay to watch. I don't recommend it to watch if you have 2 hours, and you're interested. You should watch it. But there is obviously some things in there that I wouldn't say pissed off the gay community, but kind of more just annoyed. So for instance, like the main character, who is played by, hold on, I have it here. I think it's Nicholas Stoller. No, sorry. So the 2 main characters, Bobby and Aaron, they're played by Billy Eichner and Luke McFarlane, who I didn't know, maybe he's related to, anyways. And the director was Nicholas Stoller. So the main character that's played by Billy Eichner, very insufferable in my opinion. He's very much stereotypical. He plays along the line of what is stereotypical gay in mainstream media. He's kind of represented about a little bit feminine, over the top in a lot of areas, and very much not tone policing, but I guess politically correct policing people, which I don't know many people like that. I mean, I know, on this show and, other lives that I'm in anyways, I do try to at least provide people with the proper language to use. And I'm not always correct either. Terms change. And, when meanings of words change too, more people understand the, terms change. Like we used to use the word, we used to not use the word queer. And now it's, we reclaimed it and we use it as a positive word. Anyways, in the movie, the main character, he's a director of a museum who wants to set up some LGBTQ exhibits. And he kind of falls for this like big muscle guy, meathead kind of guy, and it just very stereotypical. He's the muscle guy who isn't very openly gay, hates his life, and is macho. And he falls for the other guy, who the main character, who is more feminine and more rigidly politically correct, I would say. And that's, I don't know. I mean, I really feel that it was just played up on the stereotypes. So I would say that it didn't deserve to flop, but it certainly was nowhere near the level of what it should have been or could have been. Yes. Did anyone else see the movie? No.
I haven't seen the movie, but I am curious to kind of pick your brain on something
Yeah,
related. So you're
of
talking
course.
about this movie, and as you're talking about it, it really makes me think of mainstream media as you were breaking it down. Because as you're talking about the movie, my mind started thinking of Game of Thrones,
Mm-hmm.
where I wonder, like, where would the difference be in terms of content, in general perspective, where a movie like that would, like you said, it was kind of a flop, like it really didn't catch well, all that sort of stuff. But how would that fit into, like, what would be the difference between that and, say, Game of Thrones in terms of when they do have content in there that would be, um, openly supportive of the LGBTQ community,
Mm-hmm.
was taken very well within the series,
Yeah.
and a movie has such an issue kind of taking off. Can you?
Well, I think a lot of it too was the movie was put around activism. Like almost every conversation that the two main characters have revolves around what is correct, what should we be talking about. Like very much. Um, I mean, I don't want to say this because I don't want it to give. But I mean, I'm not sure how else to say it. So it kind of reinforces the idea in a lot of right wing people that we are shoving down our agenda down people's throats. That's the kind of idea that the movie gives off in a way. The main character, that's like all his whole big. If he's not whining about not being liked enough by the gay community, he's whining about the world not liking the gay community. Which, I mean,
Okay.
that is a real reality, but that's not our everyday lives. Whereas in the Game of Thrones, those gay characters, that wasn't their whole personality. They had lives, they had responsibilities, outside of who they had in their bed. And in this movie, that was just all like, I remember there was one scene where they're out at dinner with the macho guy's parents. And the macho guy told the main character to like tone it down, which happens at time. That's pretty realistic. Sometimes like your partner tells you to tone it down because they're embarrassed, which isn't a good thing to do. But then, of course, the main character goes over the top and talks about some really, I don't know, really over the top stuff to the macho man, to the more masculine man's parents. That was kind of on the border of embarrassing, and so I mean, that doesn't necessarily. I mean, I'm sure it happens in real life, but again, the whole conversation just revolved around being gay and what it is to be gay, and all that, and
It,
that's
it
not.
wasn't it wasn't actually portraying a real life kind of everyday thought process, essentially, right?
Yeah, I mean, some of the themes are fairly on par in the way that sometimes maybe not so much right now, or maybe more in less gay accepting areas, where one partner may be more masculine than the other, and the masculine partner may have an issue with the femininity of their other partner. That's a theme that can not. I mean, it's not like every day, But that is a theme that shows up sometimes. But I mean, in this movie, like I said, almost every single scene, that's what this whole movie that revolved around. And that, I think, is part of the reason why it flopped, because that's not our everyday lives. It
Yep,
didn't
absolutely.
necessarily show that queer people had other dimensions to the life, where the Game of Thrones, I mean, I don't remember the character's name, but the king, who wasn't going to be the king, but well, it's been a while. But yeah, like he was like the head of the house, and sure, he was sleeping with a guy, but he had all these duties and he had a responsibility, and then he goes to war against King's Landing. So that it wasn't all revolved around him. And then yes, later on, the church got involved, but again, it wasn't. I found that they made him to be more of a person than a caricature. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah. No, absolutely. No, thank you for your perspective. I just honestly was curious on the difference where how
Yeah,
people overall factor into the ratings, right?
yeah.
So
And well, I want to bring something else up. Like, I don't know if you've seen last year's re. It wasn't a remake. It was a continuation of the X-Men '97 on Disney Plus. So that was a continuation from the '90s episodes, and the writer the writer who was gay himself, he made the show very queer positive. But it was queer positive. It wasn't just revolved around rainbow flags, and it was very. It was tied into the story, but it wasn't like one of the thread wasn't larger than any other thread in the story, if you know what I mean. Like, it was
yeah,
there. Yeah,
absolutely. And that's the thing, right? Like we need, and I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm saying this as, a cis straight man, so I don't speak for anyone, but to me it's one of those where hearing so many different conversations and perspectives, it's really, you want an equal representation in terms of, yes, we exist. And no, the lives don't revolve around sexuality, but,
yeah,
just acknowledge, they exist. An everyday life community has people that are homosexual, gay, bi, all the other it things that society tends to kind of like, yeah, well,
yeah,
um, so it's one of those things. If we're gonna be moving forward as a society, it needs to be represented properly, and that's all I think anyone is really asking at this
yeah,
point.
yeah. And I think to put it in like plain terms, you can say that being gay is part of our identity. It's not all of our identity, and a lot of
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
and a lot of mainstream media portrays that in the that it's all of our identity. That's we live that every second of the day. Like, every thought that goes through our head is like, oh, how can we gay that thought up? Kind of. No, that's not. We're normal people who happen to be gay, and on this show, yes, we address a lot of these because that's what the premise of our show is. But I can promise you that I go grocery shopping, I take care of my cats, normal things that other people do. I don't dress my cats up in pride sweaters. I don't know.
Yeah, no, and that was essentially going to be my next point. Like I again, like I'm a straight man, but I mean that's not my identity. That is a part of who I am, making the overall person, right?
Yeah,
So it's kind of naive to think that we can look at people that are either gay or bi in a different lens somehow and think that that's all their life is. Like, come on, guys, we're all human.
yeah, and that's why I think like the movie Bros kind of flopped, is because they were um, hyping it to be like this first big mainstream gay romance, and then it just ended up being just a whole big mainstream media stereotype trope of what it is to be gay. And so, like, a lot of like straight men weren't the target audience, Though I think that's part. I've read an article that they wanted it to be kind of like a good date movie, but also the gay community didn't really pick up on it because of how, again, it just portrayed us in a stereotypical way that is just tired at this point. We have lots of gay movies out there, that, throughout the years from the 90s all the way, well, actually even sooner, like Victor Victoria from, I think, the 50s or 60s is kind of in that way. But we have lots of movies to watch if we wanted to watch what stereotypical viewpoint of what a gay person is. So, but yeah, I mean, for me, it's whenever I go see movies, I always classify, even when I'm just watching the previews, I either classify a movie as I'm dating myself, either as a rental, wait for TV movie, or something I want to watch in theaters. So we don't really have rentals anymore. We kind of do, but kind of don't. So I would classify this movie as a streaming movie. I wouldn't have gone to, I didn't, but I wouldn't pay money to see it. So, on that note, what movies do I should have come up with a list. What movies do I consider good to watch? What was that movie? There was a movie in the early 2000s called, I don't remember. Something in the Angry Inch. Not Hagrid. Hagrid is... I'll come back to you with a list of movies that I do recommend that everyone could watch. Actually, I'll also look for some movies that you could watch with your children too. That's children friendly. Yeah. So I do want to kind of actually no. We'll just continue about this because it's. Sorry, I usually rely on Pasty Native to help me through this, but yeah. So we'll just continue talking about movies because there's a bunch of movies out there that are underrated, but should be watched. Should be. I recommend to watch.
Just quickly. Sorry, the Nat. JT in the comments here is saying it's Hedwig and
Yes.
the Angry Inch.
Thank you, Hedwig and the Angry Inch. That's correct. I knew it wasn't an H, but yes, Hedwig and the Angry Inch is a good movie, not for children, but it is a good movie that talks about what's one aspect of being trans, basically. I won't. The title. Has a little bit more to the story. I'm not going to talk about it. First of all, I don't think that TikTok would like that. But also, I kind of feel it's an experience to learn what it means in the movie. Yeah. So one movie that was excellent, that I think actually may have gotten an Oscar nomination. It's a Quebec movie, and it's called Crazy. So it's like C period, R period, A period, Z period, Y period. So you can watch it with dubbed in English, or you could watch it in French with English subtitles. I watched it in French, but it's a great movie about growing up being gay in I wouldn't say religious family because they're not very religious, but they're a very traditional Quebecois family. It's an excellent movie, 10 on 10. Another movie, actually, that I would say, so I watched it in a really hard time in my life. So I had broken up with an ex that I was with for 9 years, and it was very hard on me. And again, I'm late to the game. This movie came out in, I think, like 90. Oh, it says here 95. Came out in 95. I watched it, I think, in like 2013, 2014 for the first time. And it really, really impacted how I looked at the world. It's called Tu Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar. It has, I was going to say Kevin Spacey. It's not Kevin Spacey. Oh my gosh, hold on. I have to click on it. I'm very bad with names. But it has Patrick Swayze as one of the main characters, Wesley Snipes and John, I'm going to butcher his name, Leguizamo or whatever. Anyways, yeah. Three heteros. Actually, that's not even another comment. Another topic for another day. But straight actors playing gay. Anyways, but this movie was absolutely amazing. It again, kind of. I mean, it's about drag queens. So I mean, it is about being gay and being drag queen, but it has a lot. Like the main messages are more like take chances in life. Like if you live a sheltered life, and don't take any risks. You're just going to live a very sheltered life and you just don't know. And that was the main message that really impacted me, especially after breaking up with my ex. I was very much closing off the world. And this really opened my eyes and made me look more out to the world. And, and I think it was part of the reason that movie, I joined the gay rugby or gay inclusive rugby team here in Montreal. And that was an amazing experience. I've always played sports, but this was just, it's a rough, macho sport, let's say, and no one imagines, or no one could have imagined at one point that gay men would play rugby. But I mean, it's a whole big thing, international thing. But anyways, so yeah, it's Tu Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar. Excellent movie, 11 on 10. If you're going to watch a gay movie, that's a good one to watch. There's other ones too, more recent. But everyone I'm pretty sure knows about The Birdcage. The Birdcage was funny. It was all right. Did you... Moose, did you ever watch, have you watched any gay movies?
To be honest, I can't remember names of them at this point, but I do. Netflix, I find, tends to have a bit more of an assortment that way. So I do browse and check things out. Yeah, the biggest thing to me, and I think society really just needs to move past, because the framing of putting putting people that are gay in shows or movies or media in general, in that sense that we take in, is still almost considered like a rebel thing to do, or you're dabbling, a little bit here and there and see how it goes. Um, and I realize a lot of stuff that I would credit probably isn't a good interpretation. Like, I think Shameless, which is on Netflix, is a good show, and I think they are very open minded and are able to show without worrying about it, which is
Mm-hmm.
fantastic.
Yeah.
The show itself is over the top, so I mean the dynamics that you do see tend to be a little over the top in the show, but that's because that's what the show is, not because they're trying to do that. I think, but again, like that's just kind of how I see it for that, and yeah, just honestly, I would recommend for people to just kind of browse through Netflix and see what they have
Yeah. Yeah.
for stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not, there's our stories deserve to be told just like everyone else's stories. So actually, welcome in a Pasty Native. I hope you're feeling better. And also welcome in.
I kinda have a voice, so hey.
Okay. I'm glad you could join us. And Treaty 6, you too. Thank you for joining.
Hey, good day. Thanks for having me up. Aw, poor Pasty, you sound pretty rough, my friend. Take care of yourself. I was gonna say, if you don't mind, if I could chime in,
Yeah.
because I was born in '69, so I grew up as a young child, like person in the '70s, and as a teenager in the '80s. And I remember like my first real exposure to seeing anybody homosexual in movies or anything. It's always around like those singing women, like the Rose, Bette Midler, um, Liza Minnelli. Remember? And I don't know if I don't want to offend anybody. Remember these women like were always self-proclaimed like fag hags, they'd call themselves,
Mhm.
right? And that whole like singing and dancing kind of theatrical world, and it really, I'm sure this is what created some stereotypes, right? Because that's all I remember seeing in television or movies until the Birdcage. And I'm glad you brought that one up. Like I thought that one was, you know, um, it was important
Yeah.
and well done.
Well, thank you.
But and I think I mentioned before, my daughter, she was in children's theater and she's been in theater all her life. Like she's still a performer. And so then in that world, like I started to meet more and more people that are LGBTQ. So it really was such a great experience for me because I had never really had ever met anyone before, and I've learned from my mom now that even when she was a young girl, one of her uncles was gay and was so ostracized by his community that he just like packed up and disappeared and no one ever saw him again. It's so sad.
Yeah,
There's one movie that I like, but it does come with a trigger warning, and it's around overly religious communities and what they would do to when they would find queer people. It was written and produced by Kevin Smith, and it's called Red State. It's very much along the lines of being a thriller, almost horror movie. But it is a really good one, I find, to see how much hate and prejudice that gay people go through when it comes to overly religious people.
yeah, and I think it's important when we're talking about media too. Um, Overall, throughout history, I mean, we have seen progression, especially when it comes to visual media, where there has been a lot more representation. Can it be better? Absolutely. But we have moved forward. And I think it's telling as we look at right now versus throughout history, especially, I mean, I'll go far back and I realize it's a bit of a reach, but it's important, I think, especially back during World War II times in Germany and how just so much was suppressed. Um, in terms of being inclusive with media over the radio, whether newspaper, all that sort of stuff. And we have moved forward since that, absolutely. I remember being in high school and again seeing some of the stuff that was put out on TV at the time. Buffy was one where I think they kind of dabbled with it within the show, and like kind of see how test the waters, see how it goes, right? So we saw a very like Buffy was out there too in terms of things. So you got to keep that in context too, right? But I mean, it was dabbling in it, and then you know myself getting into high school and actually really the first time being exposed to being around anyone that was gay was really like, hey, so what I've seen on TV absolutely is not a representation.
Mm.
Cool, right? I mean, we still see that today in a lot of stuff, but it's absolutely. I mean, I'm learning so much, and I've been jotting down names of movies for me to check out because I think it's important to be able to see what's out there and see what kind of representation or what proper representation would really look like.
Yeah. Yeah. And representation certainly does matter. I know I've always like, I've had a little bit of a debate with friends about I don't. We will save this whole topic for another day. But I just want to mention I've debated with people before, even gay people, about representation in shows and movies, and it certainly is very important. And especially now with down south, them trying to get rid of all these DEI initiatives. Not just in movies and television, but in management, representation matters. For just in jobs, and as well, for the longest time, there was longest time. Men jobs were, considered like construction jobs and doctors and like politicians. And there was that quote unquote glass ceiling that was blocking a lot of women. Which is still technically there. There's still a lot of ways to come. But, seeing, Kamala Harris as the Vice President of the United States, that was, I think, very important for representation. It gave a lot of maybe middle-aged women as well. But I mean, like younger women and girls, some sort of aspiration to look up to, like a role model. I can also mention a couple of other movies too that I think are excellent. I'm sure there are others. If anyone's in the audience and you have any recommendations, just send them in the chat. But another movie that I really liked and my mom loved, it's an Australian movie. It's called Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. Again, it's about 3 drag queens. It came out around similar time of To Wong Foo. And it was very, okay, sorry, Moose dropped. If you want to come back up, Moose, just, request up. But Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, came out relatively around the same time as To Wong Foo, I think maybe even earlier. Let me just take a quick look here. It says, of course, the date, 1994. So came out before the American movie. Oh, so did I'm gonna drop the thing. Okay, no problem, Pasty. Take care of yourself. If you want to stay in the comments, or if you a little bit later, if you want to come back up, just request whatever. Anyways, but yeah, Priscilla, Queen of the Desert is about 3 drag queens. Kind of a similar story in the fact that they travel across their country of origin. And yeah, you get to see what their stories and how they have to deal with homophobia as well in small communities across Australia. Another very good movie that kind of it's a campy movie. It's not a very serious movie, though the message is serious. But I'm a Cheerleader. And RuPaul is actually in that movie. Actually, RuPaul is actually also in To Wong Foo for a short little bit. But I'm a Cheerleader has a lot of big names. But it's came out in the 90s, I think. No, 2000. Sorry. So, but yeah, it's a very good movie too. That explores, again, not very serious, but a serious message about conversion therapy. Which is something that, we've made illegal in Canada. And by the way, Pierre Poilievre did vote against legalizing, making it illegal. But it is a theme that's coming back up, unfortunately, because down south they haven't explicitly mentioned conversion therapy in that way, but they've talked about treatment camps for people. What is a treatment camp? So, and also I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but the person that Trump named to the Office of Christianity Protection or whatever, I don't know what it's called, but I think that woman owns or runs a bunch of conversion camps in the States. So that's concerning for them, and of course that's one reason why we we need to make sure the Conservatives do not win on Monday. So go out and vote Monday. All right. So I'm going to continue just talking about several movies that really I found that were very impactful. Actually, maybe shows too. Like the Moose mentioned. Oh, hold on. Is he coming back? Oh no. Oh, fair. Oh, hi, Shmarshy. Come on up. So yeah, so the Moose mentioned Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which was a very good example. It wasn't a very serious show; it was kind of campy, but they did have a serious storyline that involved one of the main characters and her girlfriend, which I think was again important for queer representation on TV. Hi, Shmarshy.
Hey, Sean. How's it going?
Good, thanks.
How's it going?
Sorry?
I was just asking Treaty, how's it going?
Oh. Treaty, you there?
I am. Sorry, I was just muted.
No, it's okay.
I'm good. I'm just recovering from a 5-day road trip.
Oh, you poor darling.
Oh, and then I'm off to Toronto on Sunday. But anyways, I don't want to take away from our important topic here.
No, it's okay.
Absolutely. I believe saying marriage equality, I'll use that for TikTok purposes only. Marriage equality is very important in everyday life because you can't punish someone just because you don't agree with it or you think your Bible doesn't agree with it. It's
Yeah.
hypocrisy, and it really needs to stop, and it irks me to no end.
Yeah. And I mean, like, when one group's human rights are suppressed, everyone should be concerned because, who draws the line? Who draws the line? Is it this week it might be LGBTQ people, next week it could be BIPOC people, then it could be
Right.
women, so whoever draws the line, they're the ones who decide, and
But who's the deciding factor of that, right? Like, who gets to decide where the line is drawn?
Yeah, exactly.
Because
Yeah.
you look at the 2S LGBTQIA+, but you look at the intersectionality of BIPOC in the 2S LGBTQ+, IA+, and you look at all the intersectionality of everything and how it affects everybody globally, it
Yeah.
should not matter what you do in your bedroom. It is none of my business.
Well,
Treated properly, I don't care. It's not for me to judge, right? I'm not going to sit here and judge someone's lifestyle because I'd have to judge myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the common rule. I mean, if I said it wrong, I apologize.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
it reminds me on this long road trip, my daughter and I were talking actually about in her workspace now, they're starting to describe themselves in meetings. Like, hi, I'm Treaty Six Birder. I have long dark hair. And like we were talking about how this need for humans to describe things, right? And this is what made me think about this was when you said where do we draw the line, right? Because human rights are human rights. All humans should have rights regardless of anything. What does it matter about anything, right? You know what I mean? Like, so, but does it come from this desire for us to actually describe each other? And then once we start describing each other and we see the differences in each other, then it makes us feel ways. I don't know, like, it's so hard to get to the root of where this all comes from sometimes, and
Mm-hmm.
how slippery this slope is to me, because I'm with you. Like, if it's LGBTQ rights, it could be indigenous rights the next day, it's women's rights, it's we're just humans, we're all human beings who
Right.
should be having the rights we need to live the lifestyle we choose
Right. And well, again,
and born into.
yeah, right. So someone who is queer or, transgender or intersex, don't they deserve love? Don't they deserve to be with who they want to be with? Like, it's not a choice of who you are. You're not born and choose to be, no one chooses to be persecuted.
Yeah.
No one chooses, to sit there and, the biggest thing for me, and I know it sounds cliche, and I know it's going to sound corny, what really opened my eyes was Brokeback Mountain. And I know it sounds weird and insane, but that really, really, that is one movie I could not stop crying at. Can't cry at The Notebook, heaven forbid, but this movie literally broke my soul.
Mhm. Yeah, it was a good movie. I really liked it. I
It,
read this short story too, and it was very good.
but it touched on history, right? It touched on queer rights in back in like 1950s, I think it was. Like, it literally made me volatilely angry
Mm.
when I saw what was going on. And I'm sitting there in real time watching these people portray something that should never have been questioned,
Yeah.
never had been illegal, And I'm reading about, and I'm looking up stuff about Alan Turing and how he saved the world and he was persecuted for it.
Hmm.
That should never have been a thing, right? I'm looking at all these people and what they sacrifice for everybody.
Yeah.
It is so astronomically infuriating because
Well,
why are we the judges of people's life choices? Why are we the dictating factors of who people choose to be with?
so
Choose to be.
I just want to say something because you mentioned Alan Turing. And not a lot of people realize. Um, Again, I don't know if I could say this word, but the so in 1945, when the camps were liberated, everyone who was alive was let go, except for the gay men. Any person with the pink triangle were put in prison, and most of them never saw freedom again. Because even after they were eliminated, gay people were still not accepted by the Russians or the Allies, so they were put in prisons for the rest of their life. So,
Right. But nobody really understands. This man literally
no,
saved the world. He
sorry,
literally saved the world
yeah. And
with
addicted bear, yes, that's very true as well. The disabled were not released as well. That's very. Thank you for reminding me about that. Sorry, go on, Shmarshy.
I could go on for hours about his sacrifice for the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well,
But please give me your knowledge because I love listening to you speak.
oh, thanks. Yeah, well, you're right. There actually are a lot of stories too that are not just whitewashed, but in generally like heterosexual washed. There's a lot of people out there. Like I don't know if you know the playwright Tennessee Williams. He was well possibly gay, but more likely not more likely, but possibly bisexual. And he wrote a lot. If you read his plays, there's usually always a male character that has like part of their story is either gay or kind of like in the shadows, where a lot of gay people, when he was writing these stories, had to live their life in the shadows. So, for instance, the Glass Menagerie. I think the main male character in that was Tom. I'm not remember if that's was the name, but he kept on going. He was always going to the movies, to the movies, to the movies, and that was a well-known excuse for gay men to get out of the house and go to their underground bars or whatever like that.
Right, they're private clubs and stuff like that, and I get it.
Yeah. But yeah, I wish I maybe one I'll look it up again. I remember one of the days when I joined a gay youth group when I was 16, and one of the get-togethers or meetings, they handed out a packet of all these well-known like big people in history, and that they were gay. And I remember there was a lot of in there. I can't remember. I know, well, Marlon Brando, who was in The Streetcar Named Desire, which is a Tennessee Williams play, is well known as he was gay, maybe bisexual as well. He had a lot of men lovers. But a lot of times, like, a lot of people, like, I think there was a lot of there's a movie that was based on his life that didn't even touch on it, and that happens quite a bit, and that's a lot of movies like that take place, like for instance Troy. It takes place in ancient Rome or Greece. I don't remember. Sorry, I'm not. Don't remember all of that, but a lot of those movies too, like The Gladiator, and and there was a lot more like homosexuality, and that was a lot more accepted back then. And all these like movies just cut that totally out. Even though it's like very, very prevalent in that culture. And historians will tell you that it was, well accepted and very, well, I'm not going to say popular because that makes it sound trendy, but it was a lot of men did practice homosexuality to some degree in those times, and those movies and stories just cut that all out.
I don't know if you remember, Sean. I know Trudy Bird might. There was a show called Bewitched.
Yes.
You remember it? Yeah. The guy
Yeah.
who plays Darren, actually was in the queer community.
Oh yeah.
He was amazing. His acting was amazing. But again, back then, it made more sense in a way where I could understand it. It was still wholesome.
Mm-hmm.
He was still very professional, but it was just knowing that when I found out, and again, I way back in my youth and my earlier years as an adult, I was very bigoted.
Mm-hmm.
I have tried to understand where I was coming from, but I had no excuse, right? I will admit, I was bigoted. I was all for people's rights, but don't show, like, don't kind of, just the icky parts about being that kind of person.
Yeah.
But seeing community come together and seeing the love and the smiles they have on their face, it, it, it just, I know wholesome sounds problematic, but it was acting, and he's human. He's, and it confused me how a man in the community could, it just,
Mm.
I have so much admiration for everybody, and I just love everybody. And, well, I should say to a certain degree, but I have hope for our youth and our next generation going forward.
Actually, I want to mention something, because something that you brought well, along this theme. So season 7 of Black Mirror is currently out on Netflix, and there was an episode of a actress about like the story kind of revolved around an actress, and they slowly, well, not slowly, I mean, I guess they, anyways, she always played in these like romantic movies where she's romancing, well, being romantic with a man, but behind the scenes she fell in love with a woman. What was it? Nope. Okay, so Hotel Reverie. That's the name of the episode. Is episode 3 of season 7 of Black Mirror, and that's a great. First of all, there's multiple layers of representation there, but it's a great episode that just goes to show, what a lot of old Hollywood actors went through. When they may have not have loved what the society thought was deemed appropriate, and behind the scenes, like, they had this secret life. So, but that episode is very good. Well, Black Mirror, and if you have never seen Black Mirror, and you can stomach well, back when Black Mirror first came out, like this whole dystopian future thing was kind of like a distant thought. Oh, it'll never get like this. But the way the world is going right now, it's kind of Black Mirror is kind of like more realistic than fiction at the moment. But I highly recommend Black Mirror, and that episode in season 7, Hotel Reverie,
Mm-hmm.
perfect to watch about like what you were just talking about. But yeah, it's there was I had a thought too. I totally forgot. Oh,
Sean.
bless you. Yep.
Oh, sorry, I was just coughing.
Oh, sorry.
I love your shirt. Is that a Sailor Moon bear?
Yes, it is. It's from a store, a specialty store here in Montreal called Mr. Bear, and
Oh,
they
I
have
love that.
yeah, and this. Well, I'm a big Sailor Moon fan, and so my ex bought me this. But they have a lot of
Oh.
other cool T-shirts. They have like Pokemon versions of it. They have I don't know, a bunch of different. Yeah, and I know. Well, I don't know the owner very well. I've known him, seen him in the community for the last like decade or so.
Yeah.
But they have a lot of cute designs, and even if they don't have it in the store, they have a book that you could flip through, and they can make it for you, or you could order it online too. So
I actually have a shirt on. It says, "It's me. Hi. I'm the problem. It's me."
I love that.
I went to my appointment to do my evaluation for my housing, and my housing worker's assistant, because she's out of town, obviously. She's like, "I love your shirt." I'm like, "I've got so many of them." I've got one that says if I'm, oh well, I'll show it to you in the Discord because I don't want to get you banned.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Yeah, put it in the Discord. I'll take a look. But yeah, no, it's well, I mean, I not that I want to necessarily give free promotion, but I mean, I do recommend if you're ever in Montreal and you are open to, well, not even just queer themed clothes. I mean, there's other clothes there, but that's a great store. They make almost everything in store. Make a lot of stuff, maybe not everything, but yeah, I like that store. I buy quite a few things from there. So
I, I'm I've watched all 7 episodes or however many episodes of Orange is the New Black.
mm-hmm.
Can I say something? That show is very overrated,
Okay.
and the actress, the stories it portrays makes no sense to me.
No, I've never seen it. I've had people recommend it, but I'm
Don't watch it.
no.
Don't. It's not worth the time or the headache because you have to follow the, because what it does is it goes back to like present day where the person's in jail, obviously,
Okay.
and then it's a whole it's a prison. It's almost like Wentworth,
Mm,
but Wentworth is like the actual prison,
okay.
whereas Orange is the New Black is not prison.
Okay.
It's so messed up. It's
Yeah. I
I can't.
watched it too. I didn't watch all of I think we tapped it out after like I don't know, the 4th or 5th season, but what I found like it could be good. It had the potential like there are some really good elements to it. And the storyline is kind of keeps you interested for a while, but I found that because there's a lot of lesbian scenes, right? But I
Right.
felt like they were targeted at the male audience, right? They weren't there
It
to
was they were fantasizing them.
yeah,
Yes.
exactly. It wasn't there to highlight lesbianism in any way or to, to put it in a different light rather than here men watch this right
Yeah, you
you
get your
like this
fantasy while you know,
yeah
and it touches on the infantilization of men's fantasies of
yeah
two women
absolutely
together,
Yeah.
but it doesn't talk about the struggles they go through
yeah
as being openly gay, right? Like
exactly
that's
right yeah there were some scenes that were just so obvious
bizarre.
just they were just there for the male viewer
Mm,
right and just didn't add value to the show
mm-hmm.
No, it didn't do any justice for the queer community,
yeah
in my
exactly
opinion.
I agree
Um, there was a lot of sadness and It just lost its focus after like the first season, I think.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's unfortunately too. I think that's partly why too the movie Bros I was talking about earlier kind of was a flop. It was kind of written to appease the heterosexual community, and not really, like you said with Orange is the New Black. It was kind of written to appease the heterosexual male, of
Right.
their fantasies and that, and that is sometimes a problem. Actually, it makes me also think that throughout, well, since movies really began, I guess, a lot of villains in a lot of movies were made out, though it wasn't explicitly said that they were gay or lesbian, etc. But it was made out like they had a lot of stereotypical homosexual, lesbian kind of personality traits. Or so if we one thing that comes to my mind right away is the Little Mermaid. So not a lot of people realize that Ursula was made to be almost exactly like this drag queen named Divine. Actually, Divine was in the original Hairspray movie. But anyways, yeah. So you can see a lot of, if you go watch old movies, old TV shows, series, a lot of the villains were stereotypically gay. That's
Right.
and that's, I mean, when we say representation matters, it does matter. That was a negative representation and kind of did play into, again, what a lot of heterosexual people thought gay people were like.
Can I ask you a question, Sean? And this is just me, honestly. It's baffling my mind, and I need to ask someone in the community. Do you think Hollywood plays a big part in the infantilization and the whitewashing of the community's experience, or am I looking at it from a different angle?
So I very much see it as a so well, Hollywood, not just with the homosexual community, the LGBT2S LGBTQIA community, but with BIPOC too. You see a lot of times, like a lot in the 80s and the 90s anyways, if there's bank robbers, they weren't white necessarily. But so I think Hollywood does play and hype up a lot of stereotypes, and portrays different communities in different ways, and that's how a lot of people do end up viewing that community. It's there's very few, maybe not right now, but I mean very few, like decades ago, stories that portray LGBTQA, BIPOC people, Indigenous people negatively. Actually, I wanted to say this before. I'll say it now because it kind of goes along that story. So in the movie that I said, the Priscilla Queen of the Desert, the Australian movie, there is
Okay.
a good scene with an Indigenous, an Aboriginal, in that movie. It's very, I mean, from my point of view, I could be very, very wrong, but I do think it was a positive scene, and it, I mean, I'll let you or Treaty watch it, and maybe you can definitely come back to me with what you think about it. But I do think that it was portrayed in a good light, and very,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No,
I
totally.
guess.
Totally understand what you're saying. I'm not okay with people exploiting all communities, right?
Hmm.
I'm not okay with Hollywood glamorizing the exploitation of 2S LGBTQIA plus, or the BIPOC community.
Yeah. Yeah, and that happens a little bit less these days, but it does happen. Um, Now it's so I've been in conversations where there are people who are like, well, you're asking for representation. You know, beggars can't be choosers. I mean, and that's a little bit like,
That's half-assed. That's a dig at you and your community because you're asking for representation. You're
yeah,
not asking for Hollywoodization.
yeah,
You're not looking for the infantilization of your community.
yeah, exactly. And it's, you know, I'm I'm torn on a bunch of things because though I mean one example, one good example of well, I mean, not fully good example, I'd say maybe let's say 50-50 good example was the show Will
Hmm.
and Grace. So the show Will and Grace, it was not about them being gay. It was about their lives, and they were gay. So that was one good thing about the show is that, I mean, yes, I think Jack was very stereotypical gay, and again that plays into that. But I mean, the overall story arc of this show wasn't about them being gay. They were people who were gay, and I think that's important. You know, that was kind of an important milestone for TV.
Yeah.
The fact that, you know, it was not like, for instance, if you take a look at the Ellen DeGeneres show, like her sitcom, um, when she came out, all the episodes after her coming out was about being gay, and a lot of people say that's why it flopped. And I think that I mean, I think that part of it kind of did alienate the their viewers, and some of the, well, the big chunk of their viewers. But I kind of felt like they did the whole community a disservice by just focusing on that. Like, it was a show, it became a show about being a lesbian, not about being a person who is a lesbian. And I think there is a big difference, and I kind of feel like too, like how well, the movie I talked about, Bros, kind of feel like that was kind of reminiscent of that. It was a movie not about two men falling in love. It was a movie about two different stereotypical gay types, you know, revolving around being gay. Everything was gay, 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 and you know, it. There's more to, you know, people's lives are more than just, you know, one dimensional, like multifaceted lives. And I don't know a single person who wakes up in the morning and you know, just drinks their gay coffee and say, I'm just going to be gay the whole day. You know, like they drink regular coffee like everyone else. If that makes sense, you get my point, I think, I hope. Yeah, old tropes and stereotypes, exactly. I mean, I think the old tropes and stereotypes are in movies and in shows are there to appease the heterosexual audience. It's not. It's nothing more, and it comes down to profit. To be honest, I mean, let's just be frank about the whole thing. It's capitalism at its very foundation. If it does not make money, it's seen as a failure, which art should never be prone to. Art should never be not compared monetized, and shouldn't be monetized and considering. No, so what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that art should never be considered whether it is a failure because of how much money or whatever it generated. I mean, a lot of artists from, like, you know, the Renaissance and that weren't necessarily popular until years after they were dead. There, a lot of the paintings and all that weren't considered all that great until after they died. And now, like, I guess we put price tags on it, but I mean, it's, you know, a lot of the art is historical and important in those ways. To diminish what Ellen did when I wasn't
No.
diminishing what she did. I mean, her coming out was a big, huge thing for TV. I was just talking
It,
about how the writers changed the show from being a person who happens to be lesbian to being just about being lesbian. And I think that's where a lot of viewers got turned off. I mean, it's very important, like I said, to have representation, but accurate stories about representation, not this, like these these tropes that will play into, what people already think, or what's palpable for them. Yeah, you're right. She at that time she was representative. Um, I'll admit right now I don't have a good view on her, but that wasn't my intention to diminish that. I was trying to show how Hollywood, and these big studios they try to, I guess, really bank on the fact that, if they make this all about being lesbian, all the lesbians are gonna start watching, and all the straight men will watch because they like lesbians, stuff like that. They make judgments, and make these stereotypes and tropes that they want to bank in on, and it ends up not going in their favor usually. But yes, she did have a very significant. It's a very significant.
okay, Ro, can
I
you
think
hear
Rose
me?
coming up. Rose coming up.
Okay, you weren't in like. Okay, so I just checked it out. The guy who plays Jack is in real life is a gay man. The guy who
Will is
plays
not.
Will is not. Jack is.
So to me, at least Ellen was representing, like when Ellen came out, and hi, I'm sorry, I'm just meeting you today, but like
That's okay.
when Ellen came out, that is how it was. To me, somebody who lived in a house full of religious people, Ellen doing that showed me that it was okay to be lesbian.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't all fun and games, and it showed the life of someone struggling to be a lesbian in the world. Like, she risked her whole career to do that. I'm sorry, but Will didn't. Like, on Will and Grace, the
Yeah.
person who played Will did not.
No, absolutely not. And
He did the fact, like, it didn't come out till after that he was even married. So to me, to compare the two, it's not even on the same playing field.
Well, it depends on like
And
topic.
I'm coming from the woman's point of view of being a lesbian.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I asked, like, umpteen times, are we going to have, with your panel, are you going to have lesbians? Are you going to have bisexuals? Because so far, since the new panels have started, I have not seen that representation. So I'm going to say, I hate to say it, but you have a different lived experience to compare, because I don't know where you're coming from,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm almost 50, so for me to see that, and no, I'm not a huge Ellen fan, like, for what she's done, but for her to break the mold in the first place showed me that it was, I hate to say it, I didn't come out till later, but it showed me that it was okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I wasn't what I wasn't diminishing her accomplishments. I was talking about how Hollywood likes to take our stories and just focus on one aspect of our life. Like, we're all three-dimensional people, I'm more than just a gay man. And I just want to address about I'm all for having lesbians up here. My co-host is a trans man, and
Yeah.
before they came out as a trans man, they thought he thought he was a lesbian. So I understand. Like
And
I'm
Ro,
not going to pretend that I have a lot of privilege. I'm white. I'm a male. I know I have a lot of privilege. But when I was talking about Ellen's show, I wasn't like trying to put it down. I apologize, and I apologize if that came off that way. I was trying to just focus on how Hollywood, like I said, just wants to portray us as just these one monotone type people, just gay, 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 gay,
yeah,
gay all the time.
yeah. Here's the thing, Ro. I asked the question about Hollywood. So please, if anyone's gonna be mad, you're gonna be mad at anyone. Please be mad at me because I asked the question about Hollywood.
I'm not. I'm sorry if I sound like I'm coming across as angry. I don't have a good mic for my phone.
Okay.
You're good.
I'm
No,
more
you're good, honey.
frustrated with how it came across.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not mad about it. Like, this is a place to learn and to. Hi, Krista.
Hey,
Sorry.
Krista.
Hi, Krista.
Have to acknowledge Krista.
Love you. Fuck.
Love your face. But, like, it was more that it's one aspect of, like, how Hollywood represents, but at the time, we didn't see it that way. So now we can look back and say, that's not a great way. But at that time, like, we have to look at the context of the era. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like now
I
we can
agree.
go back and say that was a bad representation
Yes,
because they only looked
absolutely.
at it from her. But to a lot of women who we could not talk about and still can't. Like, look at the times in Alberta.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. It's still not safe.
Mm. Well,
And,
sorry, go on.
like, they had more representation of males. Like, at that time, they had, I can't remember the show, but it was like a jail show about males in jail.
Oh, Oz.
Oz.
Oz,
And
okay.
it's the male version of the Orange Black show kind of thing. I've never watched the female version, but I've seen parts of the male. Sorry, my sister's texting. But, like, the Oz is more gritty.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But here's the
But,
thing.
like back then, they didn't show stuff like women in jail. Like,
Yeah.
to us, and it's gonna like, I'm only harping on it because, like, the shows that came out, they did a love story about Brokeback Mountain. I
Right.
don't remember them doing anything romantic about women movies
Right.
until, and even now, like, if you watch TV shows, like when I don't know if you watch the show Brothers and Sisters.
No.
But they had a gay male couple. And now, and, like, I still don't know when they've actually represented romantic women stories.
On TV?
Other than, what was it, the L Word?
Oh, yeah, the L Word.
Yeah.
I remember
The
that.
L word. Yeah. And again, this comes back to my point or my question. Why is Hollywood vandalizing the queer community, like the 2S LGBTQI plus? I don't understand that because again, it's yes, Ellen's sitcom when she came out. I remember reading this about her years ago or watching a documentary on her. I don't know why I watched it. I really don't. Um, I thought at the time she was a good person. I didn't know she was a horrible person, but um, I watched it and her agent told her not to do it, and she's like, I can't though. I have
Mm-hmm.
to come out. Am I glad that she did stick up for herself? Absolutely. I'm proud of her for doing what she stood on, for morals. But after coming out and getting, it, it it's hard, right? It's I'm sorry, I am out of my element here.
It's
I'm
okay.
pretty much just,
It
I feel like
is.
I'm talking on my ass right now. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not trying to.
It's okay. You know what? I mean, it's understandable, and that's why I kind of I've said before that it's because if you take a look at things in history in like a historical context, um, you know, the way LGBTQ people were representative has evolved. And you're right, Ro. Looking back and saying that things were badly representative, yeah. You're right when you said that. I guess it's just, I guess on from my point of view, it is frustrating now. I guess because we have not kind of moved away. Like we're more aware now about like how Hollywood has portrayed us and in a lot of ways. I kind of feel like now we should have better representation. And in some ways we do. And that's where I brought up like Will and Grace. Again, I wasn't trying to diminish Ellen, but how Will and Grace, the show was about, about them. They were people first, gay after. And that's how I was just comparing it. So I do apologize. And of course, if you ever want to come up on the panel, like you're more than welcome. I'm not going to say that I know everything. I don't. I learn all the time. And again, like I said, I have a lot of privilege. I try to do my best to analyze that. And I'm not perfect. But I'm glad that you came up. And like I said, you're always welcome to come up and give us your point of view, or talk about whatever we're talking about that day.
Well, I
And
appreciate that. And thank you, because, like, I did really like the storyline with Will and Grace. Like, that was a regular at my house.
Mhm.
We all watched it at my house. I stopped watching it when Deborah Messing went to Israel. That's when I stopped watching it. Like, when they brought it back, I couldn't watch her.
Mhm.
So that's when I stopped watching it. I did love the storyline with Will and Jack. Like, and I still love seeing stuff on Jack. And I love watching stuff with Will. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm sorry, I can't remember. For the life of me, I can't name
Karen?
that character, but I know he's Canadian.
Mhm.
Oh, Jack McFarlane
McCormick?
or Sean Hayes? I think it's McCormick.
Eric McCormick.
Yeah. Like, he's done some awesome stuff.
Mhm.
Because he's also done something, I want to say with mental illness.
Oh yeah, he's I know what you're talking about, sweetheart. I'm
Because
sorry.
that was a really good show, too.
Mhm.
And I agree. It's so frustrating they don't represent us, because they don't portray queer disabled people either. Like,
No.
where are we in the byline?
Mhm.
And if they do use a disabled, it's very rare. They
Yeah.
usually have an able-bodied person. So,
And that's not fair.
Like in Glee.
yeah, like, I loved Glee, and I have to say, like, I was not good on technology, so I was really heartbroken to find out he was, like, I thought he was in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
to find out
It
we're
was
not
not.
represented well.
Mm.
You know why they do that, right?
I'm learning now, thanks to, like, this panel. Like, I've learned so much thanks to the Beaver Politics panel.
Yeah.
That's why I
Well,
felt safe enough to come up here and ask. And I'm sorry I came across as sharp, but like I meant to ask. Like,
Yeah, Julie, yeah, good point. Yeah, and I'm I'm not going to say I'm torn. I understand why sometimes they. No, I'm not gonna. I don't know. I mean, I would like them to use more. You know, well, same with like if they're going to have someone in a wheelchair, have a real actor who's in a wheelchair play that role, because I'm sure there are many actors and actresses. Well, actually, I just use actors, not to diminish it. Just I think that women actors are on the same level as male actors, and that's anyways. I'm pretty sure there's many actors out there who who are in a wheelchair, who have other types of disabilities, and I do think that they should be prioritized for those types of roles. Same with queer men and trans women. They should be prioritized for those types of roles, because the thing is, I know this more because I'm a gay man, but a lot of gay men in Hollywood have had issues historically, because if they come out as being gay, then they get typecast as always being the gay character, and they never get cast into those macho big male characters like James Bond, for instance. Imagine if they had a gay actor play James Bond. Like, I think there would be a huge backlash from its fan base, which is unfortunate, because a gay actor can play a straight role just as well as a straight man can play a gay role. I just feel that they need to, especially historically, where roles aren't given to LGBTQ people, and roles aren't necessarily given to disabled people, etc. They should more prioritize that. It's just, and that's actually the whole history of acting. If you go back to acting in the beginning, I don't know when acting started, but like Shakespearean plays, every role was played by man.
Yep.
Even people of color, that's where blackface came in. They were not
Yeah.
casted in those roles. They
actually,
were.
blackface came in. If you look at history, blackface didn't come in till the U.S. and it was after they had slaves.
Yeah.
But wasn't it something that they did in the UK a long time ago too?
No, it
No.
No,
wasn't
it was in the
until they
U.S. It started
started.
in the U.S.
Yeah, but what about minstrels? Was that the
It
U.S.
before?
wasn't until the U.S.
Oh,
It
okay.
wasn't until the U.S.
Oh,
And
okay.
then it wasn't until that indigenous people were played by white people.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't have proper representation. So everyone's got this Hollywood idea of how indigenous people are supposed to look. You're supposed to be dark, dark, dark. You know what I mean? You're supposed to be certain level of color, of melanin. And it's gross and it's harmful and it's not right. And like I said, I know this is about the US LGBTQIA plus, and that's why I'm here to learn from both of you, because this
Oh,
is
I'm
not my
still in
community.
newbie. I'm
But
still in newbie learning.
sweetheart, you guys are teaching me things. So please teach me things. I want
No,
to
no,
learn.
I'm still like totally learning.
Yeah. Well,
You're good,
Like
honey.
I've been to a gay, not a gala.
Ow.
Like I've been to like a gay and lesbian dance,
mhm.
but I've never been on a date. Like by the time I came out, we were in lockdown. Like I have been in the closet so long that like my parents knew before they passed away, but I didn't come out to my siblings until lockdown. So I've never been on a date with a woman. I've never
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
like I have fallen in love with a woman, but I've never met that person in person. Like
Yeah.
so to me, I'm still learning.
Yeah. Well, we're all learning, and I think we also have, that's important too, to allow us, like, give ourselves grace that we are learning, and every day, and that we're not perfect. And that's why I kind of, there's a lot of, so, there are people out there who are going to tone police people, which is not right. But I think we also have to, like, if someone's being disingenuous, then that's different. But I think that we all need to allow us and others to have grace to understand that we're all learning, and that and we have to be open to other experiences and other point of views.
Yeah, and I'm willing to sit there and listen and ask the questions. And if I sound uneducated, I apologize because again, this is not my community.
And I appreciate you, Shmershy, for asking questions and for being open. I'm never going to ever. Your questions are all asked in good faith, and even if you may not use appropriate language, that's fine. You're learning. You're open to learn, and that's what's important. You see a lot of people in the comments, like, they ask questions, and you could tell they're in bad faith, and they are using the wrong terms on purpose. And you're people like you are totally separate from them. Those people don't want to learn. Those people are disingenuous and don't want to learn and just want to troll. You know what? And you know what? I don't. Like, well, first of all, it's hard to me to moderate and do this at the same time.
Yeah.
But I turn off when I open this live. I can change the comment settings, and I allow certain comments to come through because then I like to see them, and I like to comment about them, because maybe that person is being very ignorant on purpose, but maybe we'll say something or address it in a way that person never thought, and it may click in their head. There's that. A lot of people sometimes just have that eureka moment out of nowhere.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I genuinely want to learn. As much as people want to learn from me and my experience, I want to learn and support you guys in your experience like you support me.
Yeah.
That's all what this community is about, supporting each other. How dare I have human rights? How dare I have humanity, I should say.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's one big reason. I think that media is not actually addressing it, but I think that is actually one of the big issues of this election, and people not talking about it, is human rights. And I think because a lot of the mainstream media is conservative leaning, and they're not pointing that out on purpose. But I'm sorry, almost every person I've spoke to that's on the left, some of their main concerns have to do with women's rights, LGBTQ rights, Indigenous rights, and that's a big issue, I think, that they're not really talking about.
Sorry, guys, I slammed my door and I didn't mean to. But yeah, you're absolutely right, Sean. Nobody is talking about human rights. Everybody's just looking at one group or another, and I'm sorry. If we're going to make Canada strong, we need to talk about human rights.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's...
Your name's Sean? Sorry, I came in.
Yep, my name's Sean.
Sorry, I came in guns blazing and I missed that part.
It's okay.
Hi, Sean. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Ro. I don't have... Well, actually, I'm on the Beaver Network. Actually, hold on. I have my phone here, and I can add you.
Oh, I added you. This is my backup, Mo. This is my old main.
I'm already following you, Ro.
I wondered.
I'm already following you. So, but yeah, I think that's also an unspoken thing too about what's happening with the states. A lot of the anti-Trump, sorry, I can't say his name, all the anti-orange cheese puff that's up here has to do with human rights and how he's going after all sorts of minorities. So I feel like. Again, I have 1,000 thoughts, but I think that hopefully after Monday and Carney wins, even though I voted for him. I think he's what we need. I don't think he's the big savior that everyone's putting him out to be. But I definitely think he's what we need right now. But once he gets elected, I really, really hope they start addressing the all this misinformation that is being spread to hurt the Indigenous population, the 2S LGBTQIA, BIPOC population. Like I keep on hearing points from them. Oh, look what's happening in Brampton. Which, as soon as they mention Brampton, like I know that they're going to be racist because that's what their whole point is. Look at Brampton and how the streets are overflowing with infighting of different groups from different countries. Or, drag queens are a big issue. They shouldn't be reading to children. Or, all these things, all this misinformation is just out there to basically allow people what's happening. Like, they're it's all it's a formula that was done in the 1930s, and they're using that same formula right now to undermine human rights, basically.
See, I reply with, and that's probably because I've had religion shoved down my throat since I was born, but I usually reply with, well, maybe you should actually check the date on when your Bible was written. Was it written on North American soil? Sorry, my cat's being an idiot.
It's okay. You're right, and there's
until he's done.
There's I don't remember what it's called, but there's a documentary talking about, I think it was 1949, they changed a verse in the Bible to talk about homosexuality. When it wasn't talking about homosexuality, it was talking about, again, I have to watch my word for TikTok, talking about...
In Leviticus, and it changes it from
Okay,
child,
so
and then
man
it
shall not lay
changes
with
the verse
child.
from that to male.
Yeah, so it changed from man shall not lay with child like they do women to 1948's version of man shall not lay with man. And that was a lost translation, and it was wrong, and it should never have been translated because they couldn't translate most of the Bible anyway.
Mm-hmm.
The Bible is
No,
just a book of hate.
it was actually they call it the King James version,
Yes,
because
I
he
remember
was
that.
one that was into that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So because he was like that, they had to change it so somebody else was being punished.
Right.
Because before World War II, that it was not against the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't changed. And it wasn't the interpretation. It was actually changed by whitey males on North American soil so they could have young brides.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
did you know that in Utah right now, the legal age to get married is 12?
They just changed that.
Shut the front door.
No, and if your parents consent,
Yeah.
because before the legal age there was 16.
Yeah.
Oh my
And
God,
the
that's
reason I
so
know
gross.
that is because of Bountiful in BC.
Mm-hmm. And so, like, they're distracting people with drag queens reading to children. While everyone's distracted with that, they're, passing these laws, allowing 12-year-olds to get married if their parents consent. So
The scary thing is Smith is trying to do the same thing in Alberta.
Yep.
I didn't hear that, but I don't doubt it. She's
a fascist. Let's just put it that way.
Because they would, if you follow, I think is Nitty.
Yes.
She's actually shown, I don't know if it's still up, but she showed how they were trying to have dances with conservative families and bring door, and they gave the age range
14 to 25. I believe is the
And there was
Ro.
big pushback because consent in Alberta, I believe, is 16.
Yeah, but you can't be with
And each
anyone
province
that's
has its own.
Well,
yeah.
it's actually a little discriminatory there. So I'm not saying that it's correct or whatever, but for heterosexual intimacy, 16 is the legal age in Canada. For homosexual intimacy, it's 18.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. See,
Oh
it's even worse in, was it Manitoba, where they finally made it. I don't want pushback on this, but it was within the last 5 years. But Bob has changed it, so I'm gonna say this wrong and get in trouble, but I think they changed it so you can no longer go hunting. Is that I don't know if that's wrong, but that indigenous were people. Like, you could no longer go looking for them that way.
Okay.
no, I know. It
And in
was
the
yeah.
U.S., Mississippi went back to where you could.
Mm.
Yeah, no, you're not going to get any pushback from me on that one because I agree with you on that one.
Yeah.
It's just
Uh,
changed for indigenous in the last 5 years. Like, it's not even about
so
consent, but like we think of consent, and that's the place of privilege as a white woman. Age of consent for me is 16, right?
yeah, what
And
is
then
the age
there's a
of consent?
different one for white males.
It's possible, yeah.
And then if you were caught as like, you look at the history, like, I don't want to take this off of queer, but like, you go to the history of all the way to, if you wanted to adopt a child at this point in your life, you could, and yet they're still going in the hospital across Canada to take away Indigenous children.
Mm.
Yeah, that's why it scares me if Polyev gets in because then I'll be forced to have a baby if I get pregnant, and someone can adopt my child because I'm Indigenous. It's really fucked up, I know.
Yeah.
You're not going to scare me by anything you said. It already scares me enough.
Well, and I also don't want to get the chat bananaed. Like, I'm
Yeah.
trying to be
Okay,
delicate yet make
so
my
you,
point.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I
TikTok's
get
been
what you're
very,
saying.
very
Okay, so you can say they are doing um. Oh
Well,
God.
see, they just changed the guidelines again because, like, I don't know if you've noticed when you've messaged people, but if I say the wrong word in a private message, I've actually get tips on how not to self-harm.
mm,
Right.
And I'm like, why are you reading my messages?
yeah.
Because they have to. Unfortunately, that's what they do. But here's the
It's
thing.
the change since TikTok came back. Before, I could say the exact same thing and not get a, here are your
Ro,
resources.
Ro, can I give you a friendly tip
Mm-hmm.
of how to say what you want to say without getting beamed by TikTok? You
Oh,
can
I
say
just,
they're no, you can say they're doing birth alerts because that's what it's called.
oh, okay, it's a
Now,
birth alert.
yeah, they won't beam you for that. That's just a birth alert, is all it is.
Mm.
So that's essentially what they're called.
All right. I just want to take this moment because it's actually 2:30. So it's time to. Well, I'm not going to end it right this moment. I do want to close it off and do a couple of reminders. But before I do all the reminders and in closing, I would like both you, Shmarshy, and Ro, if you guys just have like a minute or two to just, your final thoughts, which is something we always do here on the Beaver Network. So I guess we'll start with Ro. If you want to, have a minute or so to give us your final thoughts, whether it's one of what we were just talking about or what we were talking about before, just go ahead.
I'd like to actually do a TV show suggestion.
Okay, yeah.
Brothers and Sisters.
Brothers and sisters.
Do you remember the guy from Charmed? I don't know if you watched Charmed, but did you ever watch Charmed?
I know of it. I've seen a couple of episodes. You're talking the white lighter, I think. Him.
There was Edie's husband was like a bad guy, but he is actually the queer person on Brothers and Sisters.
Okay.
And
Glasses.
the guy who plays the boyfriend, fiance, I can't remember if they get married. I probably gave that all away because he has like a coming out story. But like he's been on, the other guy's been in a lot of, I'm gonna call them Hallmark movies. I don't know, W Network shows in the
Okay.
last 5 years.
Okay.
And he's a good looking guy. And as far as I know, he goes both ways. Or I can't remember if he's bi or pansexual.
And you could watch it on Disney Plus. That's what Google's telling me here.
It was a really good show. I have to say I cried when it ended.
It says
But-
I already watched it. I don't know how Google knows I already watched it. I didn't. Anyways. But, yeah, sorry, continue.
That's the one that I'm gonna say has the best, in my opinion, like, they're both to me very masculine men
Mm-hmm.
that do a very good romantic, like they have that storyline of like being people and being the queer couple.
Okay.
So to me, that's
I see
they had.
Sally Fields in
gave
it.
me
I like
hope.
her. Okay.
And thank you for having this show, because like it gives someone like me hope that I can actually go out and, maybe meet someone.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. And Ro, if like I said, if you want, you can send me a DM. I'm following you. My at is at Sean is back. We could discuss a show where you can come up as a guest and we'll talk about the subject or what you want to talk about if you want.
Oh, thank you.
For sure.
Hey, that's me.
Cool. Can we move on to Shmarshy?
Thank you for having me up.
Oh, well, thank you for coming up.
Okay, I just want to say I've enjoyed the panel. I've learned a little bit more. I got a little more homework to do, so that's great. I love anything to do with knowledge. I'm a nerd that way.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather read a book than go to a party. Been like that my entire life now. Being that I have some TV shows to watch, thanks to Ro. I am also following Ro on this account. All I want to say is everybody deserves everybody deserves human rights.
Yep.
So please, when you go vote, vote with humanity. Equity and equality does not mean oppression. It does not mean less rights for you. It's not a pie. It's life. We all have to be afforded the rights to live our life the way we need to survive.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean you get to make fun of people because you don't like how they live their life. Their life is their life. Let them live it. It doesn't affect you. The old saying goes, if the phone isn't ringing on the inside, don't answer it. If the shoe doesn't fit, don't wear it. If it doesn't apply, let it apply. Like, I am so sick of people telling people how to live. We are human beings, and that's all we deserve to be treated as.
Yeah.
I love you all. Stay blessed. Take your medications, and just have a great weekend. And let's make this Carney dream happen, because he's the only option for Canada at this point.
Yeah.
I love you all.
Yeah.
Bye.
Shmarshy. Yeah, and Shmarshy makes a good point, a great point that if you're voting, vote with humanity, and just remember, soon as you start limiting one group's rights, it's a slippery slope. So just keep that in mind. And with that said, too, you could go to smartvoting.ca, look up who is best to beat the Conservative in your riding, and you could vote that way. It's strategic voting. I've never enjoyed strategic voting, but now more than ever is something we certainly need to do, because we need to make sure that the Conservatives don't get many seats. What I would like to see is a Liberal minority with the NDP backing them up, but that doesn't look like that's going to happen. But again, like I said, go to smartvoting.ca. If the Greens are the best choice, vote Green. If the NDP is the best choice, vote NDP. If the Liberals are the best choice, vote Liberal. I mean, I don't really want to push the Bloc Québécois, but if the Bloc Québécois is the best choice to beat the Conservative, then beat that. I've heard in the last couple of days, Pierre Poilievre has picked up some momentum in the Quebec City region and may win 2 to 3 seats. So if you're out there, you know, Bloc Québécois is usually the best party to support in that area. So go out and vote Monday if you haven't voted already. If you don't know where you're voting, go to Elections Canada, their website. You could see where you're voting. Yeah, so let's get out and vote. More along the lines about today's show, we ended up talking about a lot of things, actually, which I had planned to talk at a later episode, but we covered a lot of ground about 2S LGBTQIA in the media. I think it was a great show. I want to thank everyone coming up. And if the Pasty Native's still out there, I hope you feel better. Just take your time, rest, and don't worry about a thing. About the Beaver Network. So we're the Beaver Network, no longer called Beaver Politics or the Beaver Network. We have at least 2 shows daily, Monday to Sunday. Everything is then loaded up on YouTube within a couple of days. So if you missed an episode or you weren't sure what someone said, you could go back and watch it on YouTube under the Beaver Politics. I don't know if we'll change that, but anyways, under the Beaver Politics on YouTube. What else? I think I've covered mostly everything. Yeah, so we'll be here next Friday, 12:30 Eastern, 9:30 a.m. Pacific. Same gay time, same gay channel. Play out some music.